Hi, Dr. Naval. So, welcome to my strengths-based leadership video report. I first want to talk about your first question about like who I am, what I want to be as a dietitian, what kind of dietitian I'm going to be. So, I first want to talk about a assignment we did in chef's class. It was more like a branding assignment, but if we were to be a dietitian, who would we be? So, I decided to do mine as more of like not a dream board, but we'll call it a dream board. So I wanted mine to be called Nutritious Soul. Actually, let me fold it this way. So I wanted my, practice to be called Nutritious Soul by Epi Juarez. And this is a little bit of the pictures that I wanted to represent in this vision board. It's kind of hard to see, but when I applied to Loma Linda, I didn't want to just stop at nutrition itself, but I wanted to be do a combination of medical school and also this program. I wanted to go to medical school to learn more about to be a reproductive endocrinologist. So I'm really interested in like hormone therapy and in how infertility works and how different therapies could help with improving fertility for both men and female, male and female. I just think also that things within infertility, it's more than just healthcare. It's also about understanding what the potential mother is going through. If they've had already losses, then it's going to be a lot more of an emotional journey for them. So this miracle baby is going to be a very large impact in their lives. So I think I have maybe the persona to do that, to just provide a sense of care that's not just care, but it's more community based. There's more empathy, there's more breaking things down for the patients as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to embody within my future. So what I had in my head when I first applied to Loma Linda is that I want to create more of a wellness center, a practice that has a combination of different healthcare providers working as a team to provide the best care. By a team, I mean in terms of mental health and also, MDs as well. Also, maybe other dietitians, not just me. I can't do everything. So, even like nutrition classes. So very like community based, very accessible. I want to provide an atmosphere that's almost like the neighborhood grocery store type of feel. Very culturally competent as well. Doing care with integrity, so I don't want to be overcharging anyone who cannot afford it or charging people at different rates depending on their situation or my relationship with them, or like how I know them. I know that could be controversial at times, but I do want to have very individualized care that's not only that's just more of just like a act of kindness and not just business oriented. I know we have to make money and everything, but I feel like that's the kind of care people are looking for, especially in something like reproductive health, because that's something that's just very personal within different components of a family. So yeah, that's one thing I really wanted to emphasize. So not only be culturally competent, but also, take care of my own self as, a dietitian, as a future doctor, So that's why on my dream board, I have a lot of things on mental health right there. I also put a little bit about my hobbies as well, because I do love photography. I also wanted to put something on just different, gender fluidities, sexual fluidity. That is something that's very, it's a very sensitive topic, and I feel many people don't really understand what many of these categories are really like. So within my practice, I do want to be very competent in bridging that gap of diversity in healthcare. And I'm not just talking about diversity in terms of race, but in terms of sexuality and gender identity as well. So, and that's one thing that I'm very very passionate about. So I want to represent that in my dream board. So it's not only just, the hormone therapy, or not only, diversity or the act of kindness and providing care that's accessible to everyone, but, also about me, because everything I put on this dream board, or everything that I want to represent as a dietitian, I am not just putting my life on hold, but I'm dedicating my life to be the best healthcare provider I could be with my degree. And with that being said, I just feel like it's very important to also put myself first. So if I'm, not feeling well or anything, like, I know I do have patients, but that's why I want to have a team of healthcare providers when I, create this wellness centers, hopefully someday, so then that they can fill in for me, so I can also build my own type of family, build upon my own life, or, get more accreditations that I want to get in the future, or maybe do research and teaching. So, yeah, those are a little bit of my passions. So moving along, I do want to talk about another question you asked for the report, was about not only my career, but the top 5 things of the strength-based leadership quiz, I think it's called. So my top 5 was a developer, input, intellection, and a deliberative, and a learner. I think those are 5. So as a developer, this quiz said that I enjoy activities that involve children, because I would feel younger. The challenges to see problems is very enticing to me. Influencing people and kind of seeing the world through their eyes, so then I'd be able to educate them, is one of the qualities that were on the developer section. So, and I do completely agree with that. When I've come to you before as an advisor to, like, how can I like get kids more interested, and I think at that time it was on just the term specialty crops. I know no one knows that word. I don't know how kids are going to know that word, but it's part of the grants for my job. So I had to figure out a way to bring it down, to help them understand that plants have a family as well. There's brassicas and stone fruit, and tomatoes have their own thing going on as well. So I do really believe in that trait. It also said that I'm a very curious person that likes to know about everything, and that is true. That's why I'm not just going for, the nutrition route. The nutrition route is to embody everything that I think healthcare should represent. A good chunk of preventative care should be nutrition, like, bottom line. So, yeah, that's why, I'm building upon not only the science-based education I have, but also, the nutrition-based one that I'm going to have very soon. So yeah, hopefully that comes to life. But another quality they said was that I support people around me by acknowledging their strengths, or acknowledging what they have accomplished. And I think that is very true. I used to be a crisis text counselor. So it's almost like, a different kind of, you can call it healthcare, because it is mental health and it's very important, but it's more just helping people who are suicidal bring their thoughts to a manageable level at that particular time. So I do feel like I do have that quality of acknowledging people, understanding people. Not only was I trained, but I do think I do just in general have that quality. I do love to listen to people. I do like to get to know them without judgment, which I think it's very good when you're working in groups. So that has helped me working in groups here at Loma Linda. I know different people have different strengths and weaknesses, and understanding just where they would fit in each group, or what tasks they should have, I think is really important. I know it's hard to understand people, hard to work with people, especially when they're a different personality type, where they feel like they have different opinions than you. But I think being able to work with them and being able to reach a compromise at a very cool tone if that makes sense. Something that's like, we're not gonna start fighting or getting into an argument type of environment. So I think I do bring that quality. I do understand, know people. I am very interested in human rights, and I'm a very big humanitarian. So as I mentioned before, like one of the branding ideas I wanted to do was on diversity, not only, you know, in race, but also in gender fluidity, sexuality. That is, I think it is a really big part of reproductive health, of course, you know. Anyone can have a child. I 100% believe that. It doesn't matter what background they have. So I do really do agree with that quality. No stereotypes. And I think we can move on to the next. And I guess another quality I would like to point out was, I specifically said that it was a place the needs of others ahead of my own. I do believe I do that. I think I do that more with my family right now. I'm not necessarily a healthcare provider at the moment, so I don't like do clinic and everything on the daily. So I do think I put my family's well-being first before mine. I know I've talked to Mrs. Cush about this because I missed an exam so then I could come home to my family and take care of my family when they were going through a really rough time. So, you know, I do know school is important, but I think I've put a really larger emphasis on my family, and yeah, we can move on from that. Yeah, so okay, next section was input. I did not really know or understand what that meant, but according to this section, it means that I would use my talents to gather information about other people, which I do, you know, kind of going in hand with the counseling and understanding what to do in that sense, in terms of figuring people out so then I could help them in a better way, or be more genuine and provide more meaningful advice than just saying like, hey, hang in there. You know, like, I know it's good to say, you know, affirmations like that to people, but I think it's more meaningful if you get to know them before, or get to know their situation a bit better. So that is something I have practiced in the past as and the crisis text line I was working in. Also as a scribe, you know, I know, I think being in a very team-oriented working environment, I think as a medical scribe, I did learn a lot of how to listen to people and how to gather information about people. So then not only is it small talk later on, but I could maybe hopefully keep them accountable for how they treated other people in the past, or try to understand them in a way that does not bother my day as much, you know. Like I know some ER doctors can be a little tough, so you know, being able to understand them and kind of get to know them a bit more, so not only do they treat you a little better, but they're able to show a bit more compassion in terms of the population they're serving. And I feel like sometimes the population that is being served is looked down upon in terms of healthcare that's really fast-paced and too many patients and overworked. So I think it's good to keep people accountable, which is something that this quality, the input quality or input section, proposed. Another one was that I do pay attention to current events. I do like to, by current events, I'm gonna take the term current events as being updated with political views and you know, laws that have been changed. I know, you know, abortion is a hot topic. You know, places like Texas has made it illegal. I have my own opinions about that, but I think being very knowledgeable on the topic and being very understanding of both sides is very important. I think, you know, being able to educate others as well. Like, example, some of my classmates have asked me about this. I think being able to be an advocate for something that's a very sensitive topic, so people can be mad at you at something that you say, or people can be really insensitive at times, and it could be offensive. I mean, the same thing with race as well, but I think abortion is what I would like to say is a current event that's happening. I like to keep updated. And I also want to be updated for things like that when have my own wellness center. Hopefully I can have some sort of abortion clinic section in that wellness center as well. So yeah, okay, moving on to the next one. I do like going deeper into topics. Like I said before, I am a very curious person. I do think that being curious is one of my strengths, but I would like to say that it is also part of working in a group. Okay, what I mean by that is I think people are able to share ideas, but if you are able, I feel like you can push people to make more impactful ideas. So like, let's say in a group we're discussing, or even at work, I've done this at work actually. We're like discussing about one of the festival events we've done at the farmers market, or one of the classes we've taught at the farmers market. And they're saying, okay, what can we do better? And someone says an idea, and I build upon that idea, and hopefully someone else could build upon that idea. So we can have the best thought out plan for like the next event or the next class we're teaching, or maybe doing some side brainstorming for something else we're doing, or even sometimes recipes. We're like just fancying about recipes, which is always really fun. So yeah, I definitely think like I do have that skill set of trying to push people a little bit to reach a better idea that I knew that they had in the beginning. It's not always about giving myself credit. I think it's always about helping people do the best they can, because that's why they're there. That's why we're there, just trying to make an impact in the community. And I wouldn't say a big way, but I think it is a meaningful way, because it's individual based. It's what people are learning. It's what people would like to learn as well. So that's also really fun. So there's this one quote that I wanted to point out that the test results told me in the input section. It says, "I am a fine educator." I'm not sure why they put that in quotes, but I do think I am a fine educator. This test did me a little well in that sense. Mostly because I do, like I mentioned before, I do like to find out the latest ideas, the latest concepts, and build upon those with other people I do connect with. And, even though if I don't relate to a specific mentor, and anywhere, it could be academic or even at work as well, I do find that everyone provides value. It doesn't matter if you use a wrong tone with me. I think everyone provides value, and being able to have that network of just building upon ideas, trying to provide the best class, or trying to provide the best education, or even just like meaningful advice, I think is very important. So they really, another quote that I really liked that they use was the understanding more about something today than you understood about it yesterday. I used to practice that a lot when I was teaching a series with kids at an after school program. So as a health educator, I feel really connected to the input section. Like we'd always review, or we do a fun game to make sure that they actually knew the concept. So like they'll never forget that tomatoes are ripened, in a hot house, which is a weird fact, right? But at least they know that they should buy their tomatoes in season, so they can, be more sustainable, which you'd be surprised what kids could learn if you teach them in a very fun way, I think. Anyways, going on. So there's 3 more sections. The next section was intellection. So I think this describes my more logical personality type, or like my more logical view when I was working for insurance, and when I was, a researcher for, the biochem labs, immunology labs, and there was also a fungal lab I worked for. So I do look at every idea at every angle. I do go to those, I used to, I don't know why I'm talking like I'm still working in a lab, but I did used to, if they were talking about a bacteria, like I think about the different ways they'd stick onto a surface, because, for example, Candida is, a fungal bacteria that sticks onto things like catheters. So I guess my project was on trying to figure out how to weaken their biofilm. So, we talk about all kinds of surfaces, and what if, catheters are made with a different surface, or what if the biofilm, it's, they're physiologically very different than, I guess, because they're fungus, so just their different physiology. Like, we really go into depth of, looking into it at every angle to see where can we find this, organism's weakness. Where can we maybe have the body perform in a way that will, decrease its chances of providing a viable surface for this, creature. So, it's really out there. It's not really nutrition related, but it is something I did look at a lot when I was working in science. But anyways, so we're going next to intellection. So I did used to actually keep mentors in the loop of where I was going to back in when I was an undergrad, and they actually helped me get into a fellowship position in the East Coast at Tufts University. So that was really fun. I only say that because that was one of the characteristics they said in the intellection section. So I do like to stay connected to many mentors. I think that's very valuable, like I mentioned before. But one thing I think I disagreed with this test was the idea of making small talk is a waste of time. So I did think that before when I was working in research, like everything's so fast paced and everything's competitive, right? The same thing it is, when I was working in healthcare as a medical scribe. But I think my opinion has changed on that. I think making small talk is very meaningful. Not only in the moment, because being in the moment is itself very meaningful, to maintain that good mental health composure, but also making small talk is good to make connections for the future. Your personality has to be nice for someone to reach back out to you again. If you want to be a good healthcare provider, if someone's going to choose you as their healthcare provider, they also want to get a good sense of who you are. So being genuine and not making small talk, it could come off as bad. So I think small talk is now very important. So one of the ideas that I think is also really important in this intellection section was how I reflect in the past so that it would impact future events that I do. I do that a lot, actually, in terms of exams, or even not just exams, it's just in life in general. Like the job I'm doing right now, like how can I make the next class even better than it was before? How can I get parents involved, not just their kids involved? So yeah, I think reflecting is also really important. I know one of the guest speakers for the professional issues class also really emphasized that when she was doing too many errors. So yeah, and with that being said, reflecting does make me spiral sometimes, and that's why I really agree with the quote they use, like many ideas in my head at once. That is really true, because I'm thinking of not only school, I'm thinking of work, I'm thinking of my family, I'm thinking about my own well-being, the own hobbies I like to keep going around. Not only do I do photography, but I also started painting recently, which is really fun. So yeah, the next two sections was deliberative and learner. So in deliberative, it was approaching different areas of my life differently, which I think I do. I don't think it's the best to categorize everything in your life differently, because your life should be, harmonious, everything working together all at once. But at that moment, this is how I'm able to manage my time, everything very structured. So I do agree with that. I don't think it's the best thing for my mental health, but I do agree with that statement. Another one that I'd like to point out was that life is not necessarily a popularity contest. I do believe that. I do think I do not like to compare myself to others 100%. I feel like I am doing the best for myself at that moment, then that is how it's going to be, you know. Just I cannot be someone else. I cannot compare myself to someone else, because that's not only not being kind to myself, but not being kind to the people around me. Because or not being fair, mostly to myself, honestly, because I'm putting someone else on a pedestal where I should be putting myself. So I think I set my own goals, I have my own journey, and, you know, I 100% agree that life is not a popularity contest. Another quote, or just not quote, but another statement said in the deliberative section was to spend time thinking about things that I should review, revise, repair, organize, or do better. So I 100%, I'm always thinking in the future, like the other section said before. But I think this makes it sound a bit more strategic, a bit more formulative, you know, a bit more analytical in a sense. So I do have, you know, I want to start a wellness center. I have, you know, planned out my life, not completely, but I do have a very set goal to have this wellness center in the future. And, you know, everything I'm learning now, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to, like, we can look at life in a very specific way, and I think I look at it in a holistic way, like, how will this impact my future? How can I do better for, you know, the future? Like, even though I'm not doing good in this sort of education, or let's say I'm not doing good in this master's right now, well, you know, I'm always going to go to medical school. Like, how can I improve for medical school? Or if I'm not studying as fast as I would like to now, how can I improve for medical school? So, you know, there's always that going, you know, I have a lot going on in my head all the time, but that's why I said, like, I do like to keep my hobbies very present, so then I can, you know, balance out a little bit of when I'm studying really hard, and a little bit of how I'd like to spend my time in a non-reckless way. So anyways, the last section is the learner section. As I mentioned before, I am very curious, and I am the type of person to just lose myself in a book, you know, and time will go by. If one of my favorite books, I guess hobby type of books, not really textbooks. Sometimes I read textbooks for fun, but recently it's been more hobby oriented. It's called Tisha. You should definitely read it. It's about a teacher that starts teaching in the wilderness in Alaska. So I definitely agree with that statement, that I do lose myself in a book, but I think I lose myself in books that I can learn from. So an example in that book, it was a lot about diversity and I think racial inequalities as well. You know, I don't want to get into that because I feel like this video is too long, but I did agree with that learner section, and that I do want to absorb as much information I can. You know, I know I may not need it at that present moment, but I know in the future I will. So the same example about, you know, learning, being very up to date about the abortion laws. Like, even though it's not going to currently help me with my classes right now, like, I'm not going to do a research paper or an ethics paper on abortion, but I am later on going to use that kind of information. Or if you know, one of my classmates or one of my colleagues ask me, like, oh, you know, what's the latest law, like, or if a friend, you know, asks me in a very personal manner or a very personal, I guess, environment on advice on that type of topic, I do want to be an advocate for them, and I do want to give them the most updated information. So yeah, I do love learning that information for sure. And I think over time I have gotten the confidence to learn more and be not just an ally in very controversial topics, in terms of controversial topics, but also you know, be a good representative of why certain topics shouldn't be taboo anymore, right? So one thing is about gender identity or sexual fluidity, I think, is a topic that I can just think of right now because it's talking about reproductive health. I think having those curiosities and having those skills embedded in me and that knowledge embedded in me so I can benefit someone else is really important. And that's why you do need, I think, a level of confidence to be able to think that you can advocate for these topics. So yeah, I make sure that if I learn it really well, and if I don't know it, I'll be honest that I don't know that topic really well. Anyways, I think I will end the learner section by saying how I like to. Okay, the specific statement it said is that individuals usually feel deep affection to you, but before that, it says the chances are good that you're comfortable in offering suggestions to people who regularly seek your counsel. So this is what I meant before. In the other sections, I think there's a theme that I do like to look at everyone individually, get to know them, get to understand them. This could be in analytical sense, in a very organized sense, in a very practical sense, or it could also be in a very personal level. So that's why I also very completely agree with that statement that, people do come to me for personal advice. And, the friends I do have are not many, but they're genuine friends that I have, and they're friends that I have accumulated throughout my life that have stuck with me because I am the type of friend to just say things straight up, per se, right? Add very honest and meaningful opinions that could possibly offend them, could possibly hurt them, but it is honest and it's what I feel is the truth. Okay, so I think people do come to me because they think my opinion is honest, and it's not just being nice, that's worth it's being a good friend. So I think I could also bringing that more to being a dietitian. I do think that is one thing to maintain your business as, maintain colleagues as, that I get close to in order to build this wellness center. I think I have the personality to make connections and be able to advocate for them as well as a team. So anyways, I think that's about it for my report. I think I was able. I guess one thing I did not make clear was how everything will be that will put me, or everything I just said, all these qualities that will put me in a position of power or authority or not. I don't think a position of power is good to use in healthcare. Also, a position of authority, I feel like it, that kind of language, I don't really believe in it, but I don't know if I am going to be in a sense of position or authority. But I would like to be in a very meaningful team to build a very accessible community as a healthcare provider, to show kindness and to show, genuine healthcare in terms of, providing a safe space for people who need it, for groups that are underrepresented and underserved in general. So I think overall, I just would like to serve my community. I want to advocate for the groups that don't necessarily usually have a voice. And I think I could be a very healthcare provider in doing so. So in a position of power or authority, I think overall I just want to be a part of a team that shows kindness to their patients. If that involves power or authority, then I guess that'll have to be it. But in terms of that language, I think it's mostly I just want to serve my community. So I'll leave it as that. I know it's gonna be a long video, Dr. Involved, but thank you for hearing me out.